Instructional Technique Project by Cheryl Ingwerson. We are going to look at 5 techniques. The first being no opt-out. Second will be stretch it. Third will be the hook. Fourth, circulate. And lastly, cold call. Teachers with high expectations don't accept "I don't know" as an answer. They expect students to be engaged and participating. So what does a teacher do when that's the answer they get? They use the technique no opt-out. This is where the teacher doesn't allow the student to get away with "I don't know." The question doesn't stop there. The teacher has several options to help the student find the right answer. To use this technique, there are several different options a teacher can choose. The first is the teacher can ask another student to provide a cue to help the student that doesn't know the answer come up with the answer. She can ask another student to provide the answer and then have the student repeat the answer. The teacher can also provide the cue themselves and then have the student find the answer, or the teacher can provide the answer herself and then have the student repeat the answer. The most important part is the student repeats or finds the answer out loud. Examples of when to use this technique are when the class is unwilling to try to answer a question, or they lack the knowledge to answer the question, or a combination of the two. Students need to know that they are going to have to participate. Did you ask a question and they got it right? Now's the time to stretch it. Stretch it is a technique you use when the student gets the right answer. You follow up with other questions, sometimes different, sometimes tougher, sometimes just repeating the answer you've already gotten. This checks for reliability of the answer you received and also extends their knowledge. There's 6 ways to use this technique. You can ask the student how or why to have them expand on their answer. You can ask them for another way to answer that. You can ask for a better word. You can ask for evidence, proof of their answer. You can have students integrate a related skill, or you can ask students to apply the same skill to a new setting. Examples of when to use this is when you want to make sure that the student can understand their answer. You want to see if they can explain it, if they know the available methods they needed to use to get to it. Do they know the specific words that go with their answer? Can they defend their conclusion or support their opinions? The next technique will help you be the captain in your classroom. It's called the hook. The hook is a technique a teacher will use to introduce the lesson. It can be an activity or an item, something that grabs the attention of your students and helps enhance your lesson. To capture your students' attention, you can use a story, an analogy, a prop, a video or audio clip, real-world problems, a KWL chart, which is know, want to know, and learned, or you can use a controversial or hot topics. All of these will help get the attention of your students to begin the lesson. You're going to use this technique at the beginning of a lesson or a unit. A strong hook explains what students are about to learn, explains why what they're about to learn is important. It connects what they're about to learn with what they already know. It can explain how the learning will take place. It can capture the student's attention. You don't have to have one for every lesson. The next technique we've come to is called Circulate. Circulate is simply just strategic movement around the classroom. To use this technique effectively, there are several steps a teacher needs to take. First, you want to break the plane, that imaginary line in between the teacher and the students. You need to have full access to each student so that you can move systematically around the classroom, standing next to students as you go. You need to be able to engage students while you circulate, not interrupting your teaching. And mostly you want to face as much of the class as possible while using this technique. There are several times when you're going to want to circulate around your class. Your first should be in the first 5 minutes of every class. You should do it before behavioral correction is needed. Anytime you need to work the room, when you're going to need to offer positive reinforcement, or when you need to place accountability pressure on students. This is a great technique to get the students to respond. Cold calling done right is one of the most effective ways to engage all of your students in classroom discussion. Cold calling is simply a technique a teacher uses when they call on a student who has not raised their hands, the goal being to increase participation and to check for students' understanding. To use these techniques effectively, there are several things a teacher can do. First, use softball questions. Use low-stake questions to allow students the chance to find their voice. Give them time to answer the question in a journal to think through what they would want to respond. Let students think, pair, share before answering aloud. That way, no one is put on the spot and has to provide an answer on their own. Allow students to say pass with no repercussions. Say the student's name first. This allows the students to be able to think through while they hear the question. It keeps them from having that gotcha moment. Most importantly, do not use cold call for a challenging question. Always give a warning when you're going to ask a challenging question, and then watch for volunteers. This allows the student to know they may not automatically get the correct answer. It lowers the risk of giving a wrong answer. Research shows to use this technique most effectively, the teacher needs to begin at the beginning of the year. Students tend to be quieter then, so it's a good way to get them engaging and participating. To use this technique most effectively, teachers need to make sure students know that their opinions and ideas are valued, that there's a safe space where they're free to share them, and that they have a level of comfort in the classroom. Teachers can also use this technique to speed up or slow down the pace of a lesson. All of these techniques can help make your classroom the best place. Thank you.